Rob Simmons or any other astrophotographer makes pictures of this Earth, not only do they have to curve the water to those pictures, they have to curve the land too. Now that would create elevation on a ball. The top of the land and the bottom of the land are curved, and that curvature is going to create elevation. They don't account for curvature when it comes to sea level. They just say it's mean sea level. They just say it's zero. They just say the average is zero, and we're going to start at zero, and then we're going to go measure the land. The problem with that is a ball. And again, the top of the land is curved, and the bottom of the land is curved, and when they make the picture, they got to curve it to the ball. So this is my top 10 flattest places that are too flat to be curving to Rob Simmons' pictures, or in other words, my top 10 flattest places on flat Earth. Number 10, the state of Florida. So the state of Florida is 65,000 square miles, and there's no more than a 345-foot elevation gain anywhere in the state of Florida. So the top of Jacksonville all the way down to the Florida Keys, you have something like 500 miles. Now that land would be curved gradually to a ball, and I think you would have to account for its curvature, and I think that curvature would produce elevation. Now they say the waters are at zero, and then they say land 145 feet at its highest place, and they don't account for curvature in their elevation calculations, and they call it the flattest state in America. Number 9, Lake Baikal in Russia. This lake is 31 kilometers or 12,000 miles, and it's as big as Belgium. And the thing about this water is it's super, which makes it super smooth. So this lake, when it freezes, it's perfectly flat. And this is noted by travel blog writers and travel journalists that say it's worth going to vacation to see. So the great Anthony Bear, friend of the channel, he did a 2-mile ice test in Minnesota, and he got 0, but it is a smudge off. It's a tiny bit of a smudge. That's because his ice isn't as smooth as this ice in this water. And this is a place that people actually go to see in the smoothest water. And I think if it were curved, I think you would notice it. And I don't think it would be called the flattest lake in the world. Number 8 is the Walden Sea, the mudflats at the Walden Sea in Germany. So these mudflats are 10,000 square miles. And this is a good example of what flat is. Sometimes flat isn't perfectly flat. The mud has ups and downs, it has more density to it. And when the waters recede, you just have, and it's flat. It's not a ball, so they call it flat. And it's the mudflats at the Walden Sea. Number 7 is the Pans of Botswana in Africa. These are the largest salt flats in the world, and they're 6,000 square miles or 16,000 kilometers. And the largest pan is 19,000 square miles or 4,000 kilometers. And there are hills and little valleys of sand in between them, but the pans themselves are almost perfectly flat. Number 6 is the stacked plains of New Mexico and Texas. So this is a mesa, and they're called the tablelands, Llano Estacado, which means stacked plains. And they're 32,000 square miles or 83,000 kilometers. And they're huge. They're larger than the state of Indiana or 12. They're stacked north to south, and they're stacked at a really high elevation, and they're really, really interesting. These sediments of limestone, and it's a plain, but it's a plain that's rising out of another plain out of a valley, and then the top is flat. So it's another great example of what flat Earth is. Flat Earth is different land sediments. In one case, it's mud. In another case, it's salt flats. In another case, it's swamp waters and land rising out of the swamp waters. And in this case, it looks like a old tree. It looks like a petrified tree. We're not really sure exactly what the Earth was, but it does appear to be some sort of ruins. And in this case, it's this flat plateau rising out of this desert land, and it's a tabletop, and it's a flat mesa. Number 5, and 90 miles straight. So this is on the Erie Highway. And now I'm not sure what the slope is on these 90 miles, but this would be a great place to do a curvature test. So just like flat earthers say the airplane would have to drop its nose, this 90-mile stretch, the car would have to go down a hill a little bit. Or maybe in Australia, depending on where you are, maybe you'd have to go up the hill a little bit because they're on the other side of the ball. But either way, it's going to change its differentiation in height. And it sure doesn't look like it does. It looks pretty flat. Number 4 is the Masvidal Islands. These islands are super, super interesting. It's 35,000 square miles, and the islands pop out of the water no more than 6 feet, 2 meters. So I don't think they would say that if it were curving to a ball. And again, it's another example that they don't measure elevation when it comes to water, and they don't measure elevation when it comes to land according to a globe. They do measure water and land according to a plane. Number 3, probably the best proof of flat Earth in my opinion, but I'll tell you why I keep it at number 3 in a second. But that is the Bolivia Salt Flats. So the Bolivia Salt Flats are 4,000 square miles. There's no more than 1 meter, which is 3 feet of slope anywhere for 4,000 miles. 4,000 miles, which is 10,000 kilometers. That's crazy. That's proof that it's not those pictures. Number 2 is the Bonneville Salt Flats. So the reason I have the Bonneville Salt Flats is because dorks on the internet went and tried to show a curve there. And the land geological surveyors measured the Bonneville Salt Flats, and they said it was like perfectly flat. They said the salt sediments were thicker and thinner in certain areas, which created a little bit of slope. But they said other than that, it was flat. 12 miles long, 5 miles wide, which is 19 kilometers and 8 kilometers. And no more than a 7-foot differentiation in height. But they said most of that was due to the thickness of the salt and nothing to do with the land to a ball. One place on the Earth that is too flat to be curving to those pictures is flat Earth itself. All the Earth. Again, they don't account for curvature when they do elevation. NOAA, which stands for the National Oceanic, so started in the 1970s. They tried to in one occasion, and it's quite silly. There's a mountain in Ecuador, and they say because it's on the equator, it's actually closer to the stars than Mount Everest. But then when they show you the elevation, they say it's not. They say it's like the 34th or 36th highest mountain in the Andes. It's not even that high. And then they say, oh, well, mean sea level means the sea levels are higher there, and therefore it's going to be on the ball. Anyway, I think you would have to. I think it would show up everywhere, and I think you would mention the fact that the waters are curved and the land is curved as well, because I got pictures of it. I got pictures of the land and the water curving to the ball. But then you even try to show pictures of it not curving. The ISS video even has to show a flat Earth as they fake those pictures. There's places on this Earth that are just too flat, and flat Earth itself is proof that it's fake pictures. And we're not